Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sandals of an ancient Egyptian king. Yep, you're the pharaoh now. Imagine the sun beating down on your skin, the air thick with the scent of incense, and the weight of a crown that's supposed to make you a god. But here's the thing: being a god king isn't all golden thrones and bowing servants. In fact, it's a life so heavy, with pressure so steeped in danger and expectation, that you probably won't survive this, at least, not without losing a part of yourself along the way. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always cool to see where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the heart of the temple, the air thick with the scent of myrrh and the distant echo of chanting priests. The sun's heat presses down on you, even through the shaded corridors, as if the gods themselves are watching, waiting. Today, you're not just a man anymore. You're about to become something more, something divine. But as the priests approach, carrying the double crown of Egypt, you can't shake the feeling that this moment, this ascension, might also be the beginning of your end. The crown they place on your head is no ordinary piece of jewelry. It's the Shent, the double crown that symbolizes the unification of Upper and Lower Egypta, reminder that you're not just ruling a kingdom, but holding together an entire world. The white crown of the south, tall and conical, fits snugly inside the red crown of the north, broad and flat. Together they're a masterpiece of gold and precious stones, but they're also impossibly heavy. As the priests secure it on your brow, you feel the weight settle not just on your head, but on your shoulders, your chest, your very soul. You've been preparing for this day your entire life. From the moment you were born, the son of a king, you were told that you were destined for greatness, that the gods had chosen you to rule. But now, standing here, surrounded by the most powerful men in the kingdom, you realize that being chosen doesn't make it any easier. If anything, it makes it harder. Because now, you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for everything. The crops, the floods, the wars, the temples, the people. Even the sunrise, they say, depends on your ability to maintain Mot, the cosmic order that keeps chaos at bay. It's a lot for one person to carry. You glance around the room at the faces of the priests and nobles who are supposed to be your allies. They're all watching you, their expressions a mix of reverence and expectation. But you know better than to trust those looks. In this court, loyalty is as fleeting as the desert wind, and the same hands that crown you today might be holding a dagger tomorrow. The ceremony continues, the priests chanting in a language so ancient that even you, with all your education, can barely understand it. They anoint you with sacred oils, their fingers leaving trails of cool liquid on your skin. The oil has a strange earthy smell. Rumor has it that it's made from the fat of crocodiles, a creature both feared and revered in these lands. You try not to think about that as they smear it across your forehead, your arms, your chest. Instead, you focus on the words they're saying, words that declare you the living embodiment of Horus, the falcon god, the protector of Egypt. But even as they speak, you can't help but wonder, what does it really mean to be a god? You've seen the statues, the paintings, the stories carved into temple walls. Gods are powerful, eternal, untouchable. But you're just a man. You bleed when you're cut, you get hungry, you get tired. And right now, standing in this temple, you feel more vulnerable than ever. The priests step back, and for a moment there's silence. Then the high priest raises his arms and proclaims, "Behold the king, the son of Ra, the living Horus." The crowd erupts in cheers, their voices echoing off the stone walls. You force a smile, lifting your hand in a gesture of blessing, but inside your mind is racing. You know what comes next. The endless rituals, the sacrifices, the public appearances. And beyond that, the real work, governing a kingdom that stretches from the delta to the cataracts, from the deserts to the sea. You've heard the stories of the kings who came before you. Some were great, their names etched in stone for eternity. Others were forgotten, or worse, remembered as failures. And then there are those who didn't make it to the end of their reigns, their lives cut short by disease, by war, or by the hands of their own family. You swallow hard, trying to push those thoughts away. But they linger like the scent of the oil on your skin. As the ceremony draws to a close, you're led out of the temple and into the blinding sunlight. The people are waiting, thousands of them gathered to catch a glimpse of their new king. They cheer as you pass, their faces alight with hope and expectation. You wave, trying to look confident, trying to be the god they believe you are. But deep down, you know the truth. Being a king in ancient Egypt is a burden few can bear. The crown may make you divine, but it also makes you a target, a symbol, a man trapped between the mortal and the immortal. And as you take your first steps into this new life, you can't help but feel the weight of it all pressing down on you, heavier than the crown itself. You wonder how long you'll be able to carry it before it breaks you. The cheers of the crowd still ring in your ears as you step back into the cool shadows of the palace. The coronation is over, and the weight of the pshent crown feels heavier with every passing moment. You're no longer just a man, you're the living Horus, the son of Ra, the divine ruler of Egypt. But as you settle onto the throne for the first time, a gilded seat carved with images of your ancestors, you can't shake the unease curling in your chest. The temple was full of reverence, but here, in the heart of power, the air feels different, thicker, laced with something you can't quite name. Your vizier approaches his robe swishing against the polished stone floor. As an older man, his face lined with years of service to your father, and now to you. "My king," he says, bowing low, "the court awaits your first command." His voice is steady, but his eyes flicker too, quick to meet yours, too quick to look away. You nod, keeping your expression calm, but your mind is already racing. You've heard the stories, kings betrayed by their closest advisors, poisoned by their own kin, overthrown by those they trusted most. Is he one of them? You can't tell, not yet. Around you, the court buzzes with activity. Nobles in fine linen whisper to one another, their gold jewelry glinting in the torchlight. Priests linger near the walls, their shaved heads gleaming, their hands clasped in quiet prayer, perhaps in plotting. Servants move silently, eyes downcast, carrying trays of wine and dates. Any one of them could be a threat. The weight of the crown presses harder, a constant reminder that your divinity doesn't make you invincible. You've been taught about this, of course. Growing up, your tutors drilled into you the history of Egypt's kings, those who ruled with strength and those who fell to treachery. Take King Pepi II, for instance, one of the longest reigning pharaohs. He ruled for nearly a century. But by the end, his court was a nest of corruption, his power eroded by those he trusted to govern. Or consider the fate of Amenemhat, the founder of the 12th dynasty. Historians still debate whether he was assassinated by his own guards, a victim of the very men sworn to protect him. The evidence is murky, Some point to a cryptic text, the teaching of Amenemhat, where he warns his son of betrayal from within. Others argue it's just propaganda. Either way, the lesson is clear. Trust is a luxury you can't afford. And then there's the quirky little detail you overheard once from a scribe, something about how the royal kitchens used to test your food with a taster, often a lowly servant, who'd risk death to prove the meal was safe. It's a strange thought, your life the life of a god king, resting in the hands of someone who might not even want the job. You glance at the wine cup a servant offers you now. The liquid gleams red in the flickering light, and for a moment you hesitate. Is it just wine, or something more? You push the thought aside and take a sip, letting the court see your confidence. You can't let them sense your doubt, not now, not ever. But as you sit there, the throne hard beneath you, you start to notice the little things. The way the high priest lingers too long by the vizier's side. The way a noble smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. The way the room seems to shift ever so slightly when you turn your back. The pressure of kingship isn't just about maintaining Mott or pleasing the gods. It's about surviving the people around you, people who bow to your face but might sharpen their knives in the dark. You're divine, yes, but divinity doesn't stop a blade. And as the day wears on, the whispers grow louder, the shadows deeper. You can feel it, not everyone here is loyal. The question is who your first command will set the tone for your reign. Do you summon the court to swear their allegiance, risking their resentment? Do you send spies to root out the disloyal, hoping they don't turn on you instead? Or do you sit back and watch, letting the traitors reveal themselves, assuming you can spot them in time? The choice is yours, but one thing is certain. The crown may have made you a god, but it's also painted a target on your back. You steal, a moment away from the endless ceremonies and audiences slipping into the palace gardens, where the air is sweet with the scent of lotus blossoms. As you walk along the shaded paths, you hear a soft laugh and turn to see a young woman, her eyes bright with curiosity. She's not like the courtiers with their calculated smiles and hidden agendas. There's something genuine about her, perhaps a noble's daughter or a foreign princess, something that makes your heart quicken. For a brief, foolish moment, you imagine a life where you could choose her as your queen, where love, not duty, guides your path. But before you can speak, your vizier appears, his face stern beneath the weight of his duties. My king, the high priest, awaits. It is time to discuss your marriage to your sister as tradition demands. You feel a cold weight settle in your chest. Must it be so, you ask, though you already know the answer? The vizier nods gravely. It is the way of our ancestors, the way to preserve the divine bloodline and maintain Ma'at. To defy it would bring chaos upon the land. You want to argue, to insist that the gods might bless a union of your choosing, but the words falter. Tradition is not a suggestion in Egypt, is the bedrock of existence. As you leave the garden, the fleeting dream of freedom fades, replaced by the heavy mantle of your role. You are no ordinary man. You are the king, the living Horus, bound by centuries of custom that dictate your every move. Consider the daily rituals. Each dawn, you must awaken the gods with offerings of bread, wine, and incense, ensuring the sun rises and the Nile floods to nourish the land. Your robes, your words, even the way you sit upon the throne, all are prescribed by the past. Your very name, the Nesubit, ties you to the eternal union of Upper and Lower Egypt, a title unchanged since the first kings carved their legacies into stone. This is the price of kingship, a truth you cannot escape. Yet as you walk the polished halls toward the council chamber, you wonder what forces shape these chains. The answer lies in Maat, the cosmic order that underpins all of Egypt. Maat is more than a goddess. She is the harmony of the universe, truth-justice balance. As king, you are her earthly guardian, tasked with upholding her through adherence to tradition. To falter to choose your own path risks unraveling the stability that has sustained Egypt for generations. The priests remind you of this daily, their voices, a constant hum in your ears. Their influence a shadow over your throne. But what does this mean for you, the man beneath the crown? The weight of Maat presses not just on your reign, but on your soul. You think of Akhenaten, a king who dared to break free. He cast aside the old gods, proclaiming Aten the sun disk as the one true deity. He built a new city, Amarna, and for a time he lived as he wished. Yet his rebellion was fleeting. After his death, the priests of Amun reclaimed power, erasing his name from history, leaving his city to crumble into dust. His story haunts you, a warning of what happens when a king defies the past. Could you succeed where he failed, or would your legacy meet the same fate? Such thoughts linger as you enter the council chamber, where the high priest awaits with scrolls detailing your impending marriage. You've heard the debates among the learned. Some claim your power is absolute, that as a living god you could bend tradition to your will. Others whisper that you are but a figurehead, your every step guided or controlled by the priesthood and the sprawling bureaucracy that surrounds you. The truth you suspect is a tangled thread. You wield power, yes, but it is a power hemmed in by ritual and expectation, a gilded cage you cannot escape, and nowhere is this cage more suffocating than in matters of the heart. Royal marriages are not forged in love, but in strategy and sanctity. To marry your sister is to preserve the divine bloodline, a practice as ancient as the sands. It is a duty you cannot refuse, though it gnaws at you. You recall the woman in the garden, her laughter a melody you'll never hear again. What would it be like to choose her to build a life unbound by the past? The thought is a fleeting rebellion, quickly smothered by the reality before you. So you press on through the days of preparation and the whispers of the court. The wedding approaches a spectacle of grandeur that will bind you further to tradition. But as the moment draws near, a question festers: how much of yourself must you surrender to uphold this order? The answer unfolds in the days ahead, a tale of sacrifice that will echo through the halls of your palace and beyond. The ceremony arrives, a dazzling display of Egypt's might. You stand beside your sister, her golden finery gleaming under the sun, the people cheering as the priests intone their blessings. The union is sealed. Maat upheld, the gods appeased. Yet as you exchange the sacred vows, your mind drifts to the garden, to the woman whose name you'll never know. You are the king, the divine ruler, but in this moment you feel like a prisoner, shackled by chains forged long before your birth. The celebration fades and life resumes its relentless rhythm. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months, and you retreat deeper into the role thrust upon you. The weight of tradition shapes your every choice, leaving little room for the man you might have been. You perform the rituals, you heed the priests you rule, as the past demands. But in the quiet hours, when the palace sleeps, you feel the stirrings of something else. A longing, a loss, a solitude that grows with each passing day. This is the paradox of your reign. You are the most powerful man in Egypt, yet you are not your own. You belong to the land, to the gods, to history itself. The traditions that exalt you also confine you, and as you gaze out over the Nile, you wonder if any king has ever truly broken free. Perhaps that question will linger a shadow at the edge of your thoughts as you navigate the lonely path ahead, a path we'll explore next in the stillness of your isolation. You sit on your throne, a gleaming monument of gold and lapis lazuli that towers over the room, a perch that's supposed to signify your supremacy. Instead, it feels like a gilded prison. The throne room buzzes around you. Courtiers, clad in crisp white linens, murmur in tight little knots, their sidelong glances tracking your every twitch. Servants drift like shadows, balancing trays of honeyed dates and cool wine, their steps so quiet you'd swear they're floating. The air hums with the smoky scent of incense curling up from bronze burners to wrap you in a haze of myrrh and spice. It's a spectacle of power, a king's dream brought to life. And yet here you are drowning in solitude. They're all here because of you, but none of them are with you. You're the living Horus, the son of Ra, a god walking the earth. That divine title sets you apart, a chasm no one dares to cross. You catch it in their faces, those fleeting looks of reverence tinged with fear, the way their voices drop to hushed tones when they address you. O Great One, they call you, or He who commands the two lands. Your advisors, men who've served your line since your father's time, bow so low their noses scrape the floor. Your name, the one your mother whispered when you were small, hadn't crossed anyone's lips in years. You're no longer a person. You're a symbol, a deity, a lonely star burning too bright for anyone to approach. This isn't just a feeling. It's a reality carved into your everyday. Picture your mornings before dawn cracks the horizon. Priests rouse you from sleep and guide you to the sacred lake. The water's frigid, laced with natron salt from the Nile's depths, and as you plunge in it, bites at your skin. A purification no ordinary soul could claim. You emerge, dripping and shivering, to be swathed in linen so fine it's almost translucent, blessed by chants and prayers. Your sandals, your amulets, even the kohl rimming your eye sits, all reserved for you alone, untouchable by common hands. Breakfast isn't just food. It's a ritual, every bite sampled by a taster to guard your divine life from poison. These acts aren't optional perks of royalty. They're the chains of your godhood. They mark you as separate a being apart from the mortals who bow before you. And as you move through the palace, wrapped in these sacred trappings, the distance between you and everyone else only grows. But why is this distance so absolute? Scholars have wrestled with that question for centuries. Some say it's all politics, a clever trick to keep you untouchable and your power unquestioned. By making you a god, your priests and nobles can gatekeep your every move, filtering the world through their advice and agendas. Others insist it's deeper than that, rooted in the bedrock of belief. To them, your isolation is a holy necessity, a way to preserve cosmic order that keeps chaos at bay. A king who's too human, too reachable, risks tainting that balance. Look at a king like Amenhotep III. His reign was a golden age, his wealth legendary, yet his court was a nest of schemers. Was his divine solitude a priestly power play to keep him reliant on their whispers? Or was it faith in action, reflected in the towering statues he raised to his own godhood? Then there's the oddity of the window of appearances, a balcony where you'd stand high above the crowds, tossing gold to the masses like a distant deity dispensing favors. It's not a connection. It's a performance, a reminder of the gulf that defines your existence. The day drags on, and you retreat to your private chambers craving a sliver of peace. But even here, solitude is a myth. Servants linger just out of sight, poised to leap at your smallest gesture, fetching water, adjusting cushions, vanishing only to reappear the moment you shift. You could send them away, but the silence that follows is a different kind of torment. It's just you and your thoughts then, and they're not kind company. You think of your family, your sister wife, your sons and daughters, your mother, but they're pieces of the same divine puzzle. Your wife is your partner in ritual. Your children are pawns for the throne, and your mother's title, Great Royal Wife, feels more like a job description than a bond. You can't unburden yourself to them. A God King doesn't confess fears or second-guess his path. That's for mortals, not you. So the loneliness festers a quiet ache that shadows every step, every decision, every forced smile you offer the court. Sometimes in the stillness, your mind wanders to old tale stories of kings who shed their crowns and walked the streets in disguise, tasting freedom among the people. It's a pretty fantasy, but you know better. Step beyond these walls, and you're swarmed by guards, priests, and a retinue that make a sandstorm look subtle. Even if you slipped free, the stakes are too high. A king who plays at being common risks more than gossip. He risks the gods' wrath, the unraveling of everything you're meant to uphold. So you stay perched on your throne, a solitary figure in a crowd that orbits you, like planets around a sun they can't touch. The courtiers watch the servants serve, and you rule all, while the space around you grows colder, emptier, heavier. Evening falls, painting the throne room in streaks of amber and shadow. The courtiers trickle out their duties done, but your night is just beginning. Scrolls to review, offerings to oversee a kingdom that never sleeps. The incense fades, the voices hush, and that familiar weight settles in your chest, a companion you can't dismiss. Yet as you stare into the gathering dark, a flicker of defiance stirs. Maybe there's a way to pierce this isolation, to steal moments of something real amid the divine charade. In the days ahead, you will test those limits, reaching for connection in a world built to keep you apart. It's a gamble, one that could ripple through your court and beyond. And as the stars blink awake above the Nile, you wonder, can a God King ever truly escape the throne's lonely grip? You sit alone in your private chambers, the golden crown resting on a carved table beside you. Its gleam dulled by the dim light of an oil lamp. The flame flickers, casting restless shadows on the walls. But it's the stillness that gnaws at you, the absence of a child's cry, the void where a son's voice should be. You are the pharaoh, the living Horus, tasked with upholding Ma'at, the cosmic balance of the world, yet you have no heir to secure your legacy. The thought festers like an open wound. Without a son, your dynasty could crumble, your name lost to the sands of time. In ancient Egypt, the succession is more than a matter of pride, it's the foundation of order. The pharaoh's son ensures the divine lineage continues, linking the gods to the earth through blood and breath. Without him, chaos looms, rival nobles might vie for power. Foreign enemies could exploit the uncertainty, and the gods might withdraw their favor. You think of Ramses II, whose many sons, over 100, by some counts guaranteed his immortality, their names etched into stone and history. Then there's Tutankhamun, the boy king, who died too soon, leaving no living heir. His tomb, rediscovered centuries later, held treasures untold, but no son to carry his bloodline forward. You shudder at the parallel, the fear that your reign might end, as his did, glorious yet incomplete. As the days pass, the weight of your predicament grows heavier. The court buzzes with hushed voices, their whispers sharp as reeds cutting through the wind. Your advisors, ever loyal, yet increasingly restless, press you with solutions. They speak of offerings to Isis, the nurturing goddess of fertility, her altars laden with lotus blossoms and prayers. They urge you to seek the priest's blessings, to kneel before the gods, and beg for their mercy. But their words feel like dust in your mouth, empty promises against a barren reality. One advisor, his tone cautious, yet tinged with an odd excitement, proposes a stranger ritual. He tells you of the god Min, the embodiment of male potency, often depicted with an exaggerated form that leaves little to the imagination. The ritual is simple, if bizarre. Place a statue of Min beneath your bed and sleep above it, letting his fertile energy seep into your dreams. You scoff inwardly at the absurdity. A king reduced to superstition, but desperation overrides pride. You order the statue, fetched its stone cool and unyielding as it slid beneath your pallet. That night, you lie awake half expecting to feel some divine spark, half mocking yourself for hoping. Meanwhile, in the palace, your wives and concubines bear their own burdens. The royal physicians hover like vultures, inspecting, prescribing, and praying. They mix potions of mandrake and honey, muttering incantations over bowls of herbs, claiming these will awaken the womb. The women comply, their faces masks of quiet resolve, knowing their worth hinges on the child they might bear. You see the strain in their eyes, the unspoken fear that they too might fail you. Yet months turn to seasons, and the nursery remains silent, its emptiness a mirror to your own. You turn to the oracles, desperate for clarity. Their voices rise in cryptic chants, their eyes glazed with visions. One declares, the falcon will soar, but only if the nest is strong. Another intones, the river will flow, but the banks must hold. You pace your chambers, wrestling with their meaning. Do they speak of your kingdom's strength, your resolve, or are they merely riddles to torment a king with no answers? As the years stretch on, your worry hardens into obsession. You fill temples with statues of fertility gods, Isis, Osiris, Min. Their serene faces staring down as you pour gold and grain into their worship. You host festivals, the air thick with incense, and song, hoping the gods will hear your plea. But the heavens remain mute, their silence a judgment you cannot decipher. The court grows restless, their whispers turning to murmurs of succession. Some suggest adopting a relative, a nephew, perhaps to secure the throne. You reject the idea outright. Your heir must be of your blood, a true son of Horus. Others propose a new wife, one proven fertile, but your queen's loyalty binds you, and the political fallout of such a choice could fracture the court. Your advisors split into factions. One side champions stability through adoption, the other clings to faith in divine intervention. You stand between them, torn by indecision, the sands of time slipping through your fingers. Scholars too weigh in with their debates, their voices echoing from the past. They argue over Tutankhamun's fate. Did he leave heirs or none at all? Two tiny coffins found in his tomb hint at stillborn daughters, but no son survived. The uncertainty gnaws at you, a reminder that even the mightiest can falter in this sacred duty. One night, the silence breaks. A faint cry pierces your restless sleep. You bolt upright, heart hammering, and rush to the queen's chambers, hope flaring wild and bright. But she sleeps undisturbed, the sound, a phantom born of your longing. You collapse against the wall, despair crashing over you like a wave. Yet in that moment, the oracle's words resurface. The falcon will soar, but only if the nest is strong. A spark ignites within you. Perhaps this is a test, a call to prove your worth. You vow to fortify your kingdom, to build monuments that touch the sky, to lead armies to victory. If the gods demand strength, you will give it in abundance. As the sun rises, you summon your architects and generals, your voice steady with purpose. You will erect temples to rival the pyramids, conquer lands, to expand your realm, and fill the treasury with wealth to honor the gods. The court watches intrigued as your plans unfold, a king reborn from the ashes of doubt. Yet beneath your resolve lies a quiet dread. Will these deeds sway the gods, or are they mere distractions from a fate already written? In the days ahead, your kingdom will rise anew its glory, a testament to your will. But the question lingers sharp. As a blade, will your efforts bring the heir you crave, or will the gods demand more still? The next chapter looms a tale of ambition and sacrifice, where the king's dreams clash with the whims of destiny. The flickering torchlight dances across the walls of your private chambers, casting long shadows that twist like restless spirits. You sit alone, the weight of your crown heavier than ever, its golden sheen dulled by the thoughts that plague you. Mortality, once an abstract notion, now presses against your chest, a relentless specter whispering of the inevitable. Beyond these walls, your people hail you as the living Horus, a god among men. But even gods must one day face the Hall of Mot, where the scales of judgment await. The afterlife looms, not as a distant promise, but as a trial you cannot escape. In the beliefs of your land, the weighing of the heart ceremony defines every soul's fate. You've seen it painted on the walls of tombs, Anubis with his jackal head adjusting the scales, Thoth, ibis-beaked, scribbling the verdict, and Osiris, the green-skinned lord of the dead, watching in solemn silence. Your heart keeper of your deeds will be placed against the feather of Mot, the goddess of truth and balance. If it proves lighter, you'll enter the field of reeds, a paradise of eternal serenity. But if it's heavy with sin, emit the devourer with her crocodile jaws, and lion's hunger will consume it, erasing you from existence. The thought chills your blood, a fear no royal decree can banish. You rise and pace the chamber, the cool stone beneath your feet, grounding you as your mind drifts to the rituals meant to secure your passage. Among them is the heart scarab, a peculiar talisman you've ordered, crafted for your burial. This amulet, carved from green stone and inscribed with spells from the Book of the Dead, is placed over the mummy's chest to silence the heart. O heart of my mother, the spell begins, do not bear witness against me. It's a safeguard, a whispered bribe to the gods to overlook any failings. You imagine it resting against your bandaged form, a final plea for mercy as you stand before the scales. But the afterlife's nature stirs debate among the learned. Some Egyptologists argue it was an elite privilege reserved for kings and nobles whose wealth bought elaborate tombs and priestly chants. Others point to texts suggesting a broader hope where even farmers and laborers might face the scales their simple offerings enough to plead their case. You, a pharaoh, should rest. Easy, your tomb will rival the pyramids, your name etched in eternity, but doubt gnaws at you. Does grandeur ensure salvation, or could the scales judge you as harshly as any common man? The uncertainty drives you from your chambers to the temple of Osiris, where incense curls upward like prayers. You kneel before his statue, its painted eyes staring through you, and offer gold and myrrh, hoping to lighten your heart's burden. You've ruled justly, you tell yourself. The hungry defended the weak, honored the gods, with monuments that pierce the sky. Yet every decision haunts you. The wars fought, the lives lost, the compromises made. The priests draped in leopard skins murmur reassurances. Your deeds please the gods, O Great One, they say, but their voices lack conviction, and your fears deepen. Seeking guidance, you summon the high priest, his staff tapping the floor like a heartbeat. He speaks of ancient rite spells, to recite offerings, to heap upon altars, rituals to perform in the dead of night. The gods favor the prepared, he advises, but your heart must be true. You nod, committing his words to memory, yet the cold dread remains. What if your efforts fall short? What if the scales tip against you, despite the treasures and titles you've amassed? Days blur into weeks, and your fixation on the afterlife consumes you. You order artisans to expand your tomb, filling its chambers with richest alabaster jars, ebony thrones, a gilded boat to ferry your kai across the cosmic waters. Each item is a bribe, a desperate bid to prove your worth to the gods. You dream of the scales, again standing powerless as your heart teeters, Amit's growls echoing in the dark. You wake gasping, the verdict unseen, and the nightmare fuels your resolve to do more. Your actions grow frantic. You triple the temple offerings, oxen slaughtered, wine poured, incense burned until the air chokes with it. You lead grand processions, your subjects' cheers a fleeting balm to your soul. Still, the fear clings like damp linen, and you begin to question the priest's promises. Is there a greater act, a monumental sacrifice, that could guarantee your place in the field of reeds whispers, reach you of a forbidden ritual? One that binds a soul to the divine, but demands a price few dare pay. The high priest confirms the rumor under the dim glow of a single lamp. It is an ancient pact, he says, his voice, a thread of sound, a merging of mortal and God. But it requires a sacrifice beyond gold or blood. You press him for details, your pulse quickening. The ritual's allure grows a dangerous spark igniting within you. As Pharaoh, you've bent the world to your will. Why not the afterlife? Yet the cost looms, a shadow you cannot yet name, pulling you toward a precipice. The scales await, impartial and unyielding, and your time to prepare dwindles. Your reign, once defined by conquest and glory, now pivots on this singular dread. The next chapter beckons a descent into obsession, where the king's quest for immortality might unravel the very fabric of his soul. What will you surrender to tip the balance in your favor? You wake with a jolt, the echoes of a restless dream still clawing at your thoughts. The hall of Mott lingers in your mind, those cold, unyielding scales, the shadow of Amit waiting to devour what's unworthy. The fear of the afterlife clings to you, a bitter taste from last night's musings on forbidden rites. But as the first rays of dawn spill through the palace windows, painting the stone walls in soft gold, the dream slips away. Another day dawns, and with it the unshakable burden of your role. You are the pharaoh, the living Horus, and the cosmos itself teeters on your every choice. Rising from your bed, the linen sheets slide cool and smooth against your skin. Servants glide in their footsteps, hush their hands deft as they drape you in fine linens white, as the midday sun embroidered with tales of gods and kings. They place the crook and flail in your grip, symbols of dominion over land and life, and settle the urious crown upon your brow, its cobra poised to strike. Each piece is more than adornment. It's a chain binding you to Mott, the order you must uphold, the harmony you cannot let slip. The palace stirs as you move toward the temple, the air growing thick with the scent of myrrh and frankincense, a heavy veil that wraps around you. The high priest awaits, bowing low, his voice a low hum as he speaks. Today, O Great One, we beseech the Nile's bounty. You nod, though your thoughts still drift to the scales, to the weight of your heart against that feather. The morning rites unfold. Like a slow dance, chants rise, offerings burn, and you pour sacred water into a basin, watching it ripple like the river you command. The priests say, Your will shapes the flood that your breath stirs the stars. It's a comforting thought, but today it feels like a yoke. Stepping into the gardens afterward, you seek a breath of peace. The air is sharp with lotus blooms. The Niles murmur a distant lullaby. The sky stretches wide a canvas of blue, and for a fleeting moment you're just a man beneath it. But duty doesn't pause. Your vizier approaches, his face creased with worry. Unrest brews in the south, my king. The nomarchs clash, and rebellion whispers. You exhale, Mot's balance trembling already. Call the council, you say, turning back to the palace, the weight of the cosmos settling deeper into your bones. The throne room hums with tension as the council gathers. Nobles, priests, advisors, their voices, a tangle of urgency. The vizier's tone is steel. Send the army, crush this discord before it festers. The high priest counters his words, soft but firm. Offerings, O great one. The gods are restless. Only their favor will restore peace. You sit the throne cold beneath you and listen. Mot demands equilibrium force, or faith war, or worship. The decision is yours, a thread in the vast tapestry of order you're tasked to weave. You choose a middle road, envoys, to parley with soldiers at their backs, if words fail. It's a fragile plan, but spilling blood feels like tipping the scales too far. As the council scatters, you retreat to your chambers, exhaustion seeping in. Your thoughts turn to the said festival, that grand ritual looming closer. Every 30 years you'll run the course, a living God proving his vigor, binding himself anew to the divine. It's a celebration, yes, but also a mirror each lap, a step toward the end, a reminder that even gods must face the scales someday. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across your chamber, and doubt creeps in with the dusk. Do you believe you're divine, or is this all a gilded mask? You summon Tahotep, your scribe, and confidant, his eyes wise beneath a lined brow. Tell me, you murmur, is my godhood real, or just a tale to keep the kingdom tethered? He pauses, then speaks. It's the belief that matters, my king. It holds the people, the land, the stars. Truth or tool, it's the spine of Mot. His words settle uneasily, a riddle you can't unravel. You want the god's fire in your veins, but what if its only mortal blood night cloaks the palace, and you lie beneath a ceiling of painted stars, their glow a faint comfort? The day's weight presses down, unrest rituals, the endless dance of order. You recall a priest's odd claim, sneeze, and the Nile surges. Smile, and the sun blazes. It's a whimsical thought, a child's story, yet it lingers. The cosmos doesn't bow to you, though. You bow to it, bending your will to its rhythm, striving to keep Mot steady. The South's unrest, the Seds approach the scales in your dreams, their threads in a web you must hold together, lest it all unravels. Sleep tugs at you, but your mind churns. There are moments when you feel it. The pulse of the Nile, the stars, silent song, a thread tying you to something vast. Standing atop the temple, the night sky unfurls like a scroll. Wading the rivers, edge its current hums beneath your feet. In those breaths, you're more than a man. You're the pivot, the balance, the heart of the cosmos. But they're fleeting, drowned by the clamor of rule, the shadow of doubt, the looming trials you sense drawing near. As your eyes close, resolve hardens within you. You'll face tomorrow, rebellion rituals, whatever it brings, for that's your charge. The scales await, but not yet. For now, you'll fight to keep them, even to hold the kingdom, the cosmos in your hands. Dreams claim you, visions of peace and order, but a shadow flickers at their edge, a hint of chaos, a test yet to come. The stars turn, the Nile flows, and you, god king or not, drift into the night, braced for what's next. The night air clings to your skin, heavy with the scent of the Nile, and the faint tang of desert dust. You stand at the edge of your palace balcony, the city of Memphis sprawling below, like a tapestry woven with threads of light and shadow. The distant cheers from the day's procession have faded, replaced by an ominous stillness that seems to pulse with the heartbeat of a land on the brink. Your decision weighs on you troops, prepared envoys dispatched. The nomarchs must bend, or they will break. You are the Pharaoh, the living God. But even gods must contend with the chaos of men. Morning breaks with a harsh golden light, and the palace stirs to life. Messengers arrive, their sandals slapping against the stone floors as they bring word from the south. The envoys have reached Thebes, but the nomarch's response is cold. He demands greater autonomy, claiming the gods favor his rule over yours. You grip the arms of your throne, the carved falcons beneath your fingers, a reminder of your divine lineage. The audacity of this man stings, but it's not unexpected. Thebes has long been a thorn in the side of Pharos, a city of wealth and ambition, its priests and governors ever eager to test the limits of royal power. You turn to your vizier, his eyes shadowed with fatigue. What of the rebels, you ask? They grow bolder, he replies, unrolling a papyrus map marked with red ink. Small bands have raided granaries near Abydos. They call themselves Sons of Chaos, swearing to topple the Order of Maat. The name sends a chill through you. Maat. The balance you are sworn to uphold is the foundation of Egypt's prosperity. To defy it is to defy the gods themselves, or so you've been taught. Yet as you trace the map's lines, you wonder if these rebels see you as the source of their chaos, not its cure. The council chamber buzzes with debate, a storm of voices clashing like the winds over the desert. Your generals push for war, their fists pounding the table as they argue for a swift march on Thebes. Crush the nomarch and the rebels in one stroke. One insists, his scar-lined face set in a grimace. But the high priest of Amun-Ra cautions restraint. The people must see you as just he says, his voice smooth as polished stone. A war could turn them against you. You listen, weighing each word, knowing that history will judge your choice. In fact, scholars today still argue over this very dilemma. Did pharaohs rule by force alone, or did they rely on the fragile trust of their subjects? You decide on a middle path, a show of strength tempered with mercy. The army will march south, but not to Thebes, not yet. Instead, they'll target the rebel strongholds near Abydos, rooting out the sons of chaos while sending a message to the nomarchs. You raise your voice, cutting through the din. Let them see the might of the son of Ra, you declare. But let them also know I offer peace to those who kneel. The room falls silent, your words, a thread, stitching together the fraying edges of your authority. As preparations unfold, you retreat to the temple of Ptah, seeking clarity amid the chaos. The air here is cool, thick with the scent of myrrh and the murmur of priests' chants. You kneel before the statue of the Creator God, his eyes of lapis lazuli, seeming to pierce your soul. A quirky tradition comes to mind. Your people believe that a pharaoh's whispered prayer in this sanctum can summon divine winds to sweep away his enemies. You smile faintly, tempted to test the tale, but you know the real battle lies beyond these walls, not in the air, but in the hearts of your people. The high priest approaches his robes, rustling like dry reeds. The omens are unclear, he says, holding a tray of oracle bones. The gods watch, but they do not speak. His words unsettle you. You've relied on their favor to bolster your reign, Yet now, when you need them most, they remain silent. You rise, brushing off the doubt. Then I will speak for them. You say, your resolve hardening. The priest bows, but his eyes linger, as if he senses the storm brewing within you. Days later, you stand atop a chariot, the reins taut in your hands as the army assembles outside Memphis. The sun glints off bronze spears, a sea of shields stretching toward the horizon. Your soldiers chant your name, their voices a roar that drowns out the whispers of rebellion, at least for now. You raise your arm signaling the march, and the ground trembles beneath the weight of your forces. Dust rises in thick clouds, a shroud marking your passage south. The people line the roads, some cheering, others watching in silence, their faces masks of uncertainty. The journey is grueling, the heat relentless as you near Abydos. Scouts report the rebels are dug in their numbers, swelling with discontented farmers and outcasts. You pause at the rivers, edge the Nile's waters dark and restless, mirroring your own thoughts. A memory surfaces years ago. As a young prince, you stood here with your father, watching the floods renew the land. He told you then that a king's strength lies not in his sword, but in his ability to give life. Now you wonder if that life must be forged through death. The battle comes at dawn, the sky streaked with pink and gold. The sons of chaos emerge from the hills, their war cries jagged against the morning calm. Your archers loose a hail of arrows, and the clash of bronze rings out as your infantry meets theirs. Blood stains the earth, the air thick with dust and screams. You fight from your chariot, the whip cracking as you drive through the fray, your presence a rallying cry for your men. The rebels falter their lines, breaking under your relentless advance, and by midday, the field is yours. You survey the aftermath, the ground littered with the fallen. Victory is yours, but it tastes bitter. These were your people, driven to desperation by hunger and doubt. A soldier approaches, dragging a prisoner, the rebel leader, his face bloodied but defiant. You cannot silence us, he spits. The land will rise again. You stare into his eyes, seeing not just defiance, but a mirror of your own fears. You order him, bound not killed. His fate will be a warning, not a martyrdom. The army returns to Memphis in triumph. The rebel threat quelled, but the nomarch of Thebes remains unbowed. Word reaches you that he's mustering his own forces, emboldened by your focus on the south. The vizier meets your gaze, his voice low. Thebes will not yield without a fight. You nod, the weight of the crown heavier than ever. The land is restless, still its wounds deep and festering. You've won a battle, but the war for Egypt's soul looms on the horizon. As dusk settles, you climb the palace steps, the city's lights flickering like stars against the dark. You've restored a fragile order, but at what cost? The rebel leader's words echo in your mind, a taunt and a prophecy. The next chapter beckons a tale of diplomacy and deception, where the pharaoh must outwit his foes or risk losing all he holds dear. The restless land watches, waiting for your next move. The sun dips below the horizon, a crimson orb swallowed by the endless sands, its dying light stretching shadows across the palace grounds. You stand at the edge of the royal terrace, gazing at the wilted remains of what were once vibrant gardens, now choked by dust and despair. The Nile, the artery of your empire, has turned against you. For 3 seasons, its floods have faltered, the waters barely lapping the banks, leaving the fields barren and the people hungry. In the streets, voices murmur of divine displeasure, their faith in you. The pharaoh, the earthly embodiment of wavering like a flame in the wind. The council chamber buzzes with unease, the air thick with the scent of papyrus and anxiety. Your advisors cluster around a table littered with charts and decrees, their eyes hollow from sleepless nights. The vizier, his voice ragged, points to a record of the Nile's levels. The inundation has failed us again, he says, his words heavy with dread. The crops wither, and the granaries echo with emptiness. You nod, feeling the burden of his report press against your ribs. The Nile's flood is more than a seasonal gift. It is a sacred covenant proof of the God's blessing on your rule. Its absence undermines your very claim to the throne. You turn to the high priest of Hapi, his ceremonial robes glinting with silver threads. What must we do to restore the rivers? Favor, you ask, masking your own uncertainty. He lowers his head, his voice a solemn chant. A great offering, my lord, a procession to the Nile with treasures and livestock to sate Hapis' hunger. You glance at the treasurer, whose grimace betrays the strain on your dwindling reserves. Gold is scarce, but doubt is more dangerous. Make it so, you order, clinging to the hope that the gods might yet listen. The procession cuts through Memphis like a gilded wound, a display of opulence amid encroaching ruin. You ride at its head, your chariot polished to a mirror, sheen the crowd, watching with gaunt faces and fading cheers. At the riverbank, the priests intone their hymns, their voices weaving through the still air as they hurl gold and bellowing calves into the sluggish current. The offerings vanish beneath the surface, and the people wait breathless for a miracle, a swell, a sign. But the Nile lies flat, unmoved, its silence, a rebuke to your efforts. In the weeks that follow, the drought tightens its grip, the earth splitting under the sun's relentless gaze. Messengers bring tales of desolation, villages abandoned, herds reduced to bone, children too weak to cry. You open the granaries, rationing the last of the grain, but it is a fleeting reprieve. The murmurs of discontent grow into roars, and one day a woman in the market seizes your arm, her voice a raw scream. Have the gods forsaken us because of you, she demands. You shake her off, retreating to the palace where the quiet offers no solace, only the echo of her accusation. Alone in your chambers, you scour the annals of the past, searching for guidance among the triumphs and trials of your predecessors. You stumble upon the tale of Djoser, whose reign was plagued by a 7-year famine until a vision from Imhotep brought the floods anew. Scholars argue over its truth, history, or fable, but to you it is a lifeline, a whisper of possibility. Could a temple, a dream turn the tide? The gods offer no reply, their silence as vast as the desert beyond your walls. Driven by necessity, you summon the court's mystics, their cloaks stitched with symbols of forgotten power. They propose a ritual born in Egypt's infancy, a moonlit dance to summon rain, accompanied by the rattle of sistrums and chants from a time before stone tombs rose. It teeters on the edge of heresy, but the desperation in your people's eyes outweighs the priest's disapproval. Perform it, you say, your voice firm, betting on the shadows of the past to light your future. The ritual unfolds beneath a sky, pricked with stars, the full moon casting a silver glow over the temple's summit. You watch from above the city sprawling below like a fading tapestry. The mystics dance their movements fluid and strange, their voices threading through the night in an ancient tongue. The air hums, a faint tremor ripples through the stone, and for a fleeting moment you believe the rains might come. But dawn breaks over a cloudless sky. The mystics exhausted, their magic impotent. You turn away, the weight of another failure settling into your bones. Then at sunrise, a cry pierces the stillness. A messenger, breathless with wonder. The Nile rises, my king. You race to the balcony, and there it is, the river, surging its waters, climbing the banks, the land drinking deeply once more. The people flood the streets, their jubilation shaking the earth, their trust in you renewed. Yet as you watch, a question lingers. Was it the offerings, the dance, or a mere shift in the seasons? The answer eludes you. But for now, survival is enough. Still, the woman's words haunt you. A reminder that your divinity hangs by a thread. The floods breathe life into Egypt once more, the fields blooming, the granaries swelling with promise. You declare a festival, the streets ringing with song and celebration, the people's joy a fragile shield against your doubts. But in the stillness of your chambers, you sense the reprieve is temporary. The Nile's failure was a harbinger, a test of your reign. In greater trials, lumen rest stirs in the shadows, a tempest gathering strength. The river flows again, but the true battle for your kingdom's soul is only beginning. The jungle had been an unrelenting adversary, its tangled vines and hidden pitfalls testing the explorer's endurance for days. But now, as they push through the final curtain of foliage, their breath caught in their throats, rising before them was the ancient temple of the serpent scepter, its weathered stone walls a testament to a civilization lost to time. Intricate carvings of serpents and warriors adorned its surface, their faded lines whispering tales of glory and peril. The air buzzed with an electric tension as the group Dr. Elena Vasquez, Marcus Lee, and Sophie stood at the threshold of their long-sought goal. Dr. Vasquez, the team's archaeologist and leader, adjusted her pack and gazed at the towering structure. "This is it," she said, her voice steady, despite the exhaustion etched into her features. "The artifact is inside. Let's move." Marcus, their rugged protector, nodded silently, his hand resting on the machete at his hip. Lee, the linguist, scribbled a quick note in his journal, while Sophie, the engineer, checked her gear with a nervous energy. They had survived countless trials to reach this point: wild beasts, crumbling cliffs, and the ever-present threat of rival treasure hunters. The temple loomed as both a promise and a challenge. The promise of discovery urged them forward, but the temple's shadowed entrance hinted at dangers yet unseen. What trials awaited within those ancient walls? The explorers steeled themselves, knowing that each step deeper into the labyrinth would bring them closer to triumph or disaster. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, a musty shroud that clung to their lungs. The temple's corridors, twisted like the coils of a serpent, narrow and dimly lit by the beams of their flashlights. Their footsteps echoed a hollow sound, swallowed by the vastness of the stone. Soon they reached their first test, a chamber with a floor of tiles each marked with a unique symbol, some worn, smooth by time, others sharp and menacing. "Pressure plates," Lee warned, crouching to examine the tiles. "One wrong step, and we're done." The group paused, tension crackling between them. Sophie traced a pattern with her finger, recalling the ancient texts they'd studied. "These symbols match the codex," she said, pointing to a sequence. "They mark the safe path." Marcus tested the first tile with a cautious boot, exhaling as it clicked harmlessly beneath his weight. Step by step, they crossed, hearts pounding, until Marcus hesitated mid-path. "This one's off," he grunted, eyeing a tile with a subtly altered symbol. Lee confirmed it a decoy and guided him to the correct one. They reached the far side, breathless but alive. Relief washed over them, but the temple's silence felt heavier now, as if it were watching their every move. Beyond the tiled floor lay more secrets and greater risks. What new riddle would bar their way to the scepter? The next chamber revealed a massive stone door, its surface unyielding and bare of handles or locks. Carvings adorned the surrounding walls, their script curling like vines. Lee stepped forward, eyes alight with purpose. A riddle, he said, tracing the glyphs. It says, "To pass one must speak the name of the serpent god." Dr. Vasquez frowned her mind, racing through the pantheon of deities tied to this culture. "There are dozens of serpent gods," she muttered. Sophie, ever quick to connect dots, interjected. "The temples dedicated to the serpent scepter. Could it be Sethek, the god of wisdom and power?" Lee nodded, flipping through his notes. Yes, the text mentioned Sethek as the scepter's keeper. With a collective breath, Dr. Vasquez faced the door and spoke Sethek. Silence hung for a heartbeat, then a deep rumble shook the chamber. The door groaned open, revealing the inner sanctuma, glittering trove of gold gems, and at its heart, the serpent scepter. The artifact gleamed before them, a prize within reach. Yet the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. Had they truly earned it? Or was this merely the calm before a storm? The explorer's triumph was about to be tested in ways they couldn't yet fathom. The sanctum was a marvel, its walls shimmering with wealth untold. At its center, atop a marble pedestal, rested the scepter and ornate staff, crowned with a coiled serpent, its emerald eyes pulsing faintly. But as the explorers approached, a low hiss filled the air. From the shadows emerged a guardian, a towering serpent, its obsidian scales glinting, its gaze sharp with ancient intelligence. Sophie stifled a gasp, and Marcus drew his machete, but Dr. Vasquez raised a hand. "Wait," she said, recalling a passage from their research. "The guardian can be appeased with the herb of slumber." Sophie rummaged through her pack, producing a pouch of the rare plant they'd collected days earlier. With careful steps, they offered it to the serpent, which lowered its head and consumed the herb, its eyes drooping as it coiled into sleep. Relieved, Dr. Vasquez lifted the scepter from its pedestal. It was lighter than expected, thrumming, with a subtle energy that tingled in her grasp. The group exchanged triumphant glances until a chilling laugh cut through the silence. Victory slipped through their fingers like sand as new shadows stirred. The temple had guarded its treasure well, but it seemed others had followed in their wake. Hor wuttered to challenge them now. From the darkness stepped Victor Grimm, a mercenary whose name struck fear into treasure hunters across the globe. His band of armed thugs fanned out behind him, eyes glinting with greed. "You've saved us the trouble," he sneered, leveling a pistol at Dr. Vasquez. "Hand it over." Marcus lunged forward, deflecting a blow, and chaos erupted. Blades clashed, shouts rang out, and the sanctum became a battlefield. In the fray, Sophie stumbled, her hand brushing the scepter. A blinding light exploded from it, the ground quaking as energy surged. When the glare faded, the temple was gone. The explorers stood in a vast hall, its walls etched with glowing runes, the air alive with an alien hum. Before them loomed an ornate gate, its symbol shifting like liquid. The scepter's power had torn them from their world, thrusting them into the unknown. Beyond the gate, faint sounds hinted at new threats or wonders. What had they unleashed, and where had it taken them? Dr. Vasquez steadied herself, the scepter still in hand. "We've been transported," she said, voice firm, despite the tremor in her chest. Lee studied the runes, shaking his head. "These aren't from any known language. This is another realm." Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, scanning the hall. "Whatever's out there, well, handle it." The gate creaked open, revealing a surreal landscape, floating islands, swirling mists, and otherworldly glow. As they stepped forward, a shadowy figure emerged, its form vague but commanding. It raised a hand, and its voice boomed. "Welcome, seekers. Your true test begins now." The explorers braced themselves, united in resolve. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But the figure's words echoed with a promise of trials far beyond their imagining. And so their journey plunged into a new abyss, the scepter's secrets only beginning to unfold. What mysteries awaited in this strange realm, and would they survive to tell the tale as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the sprawling expanse of ancient ruins? Our heroes stood at the threshold of the long-forgotten temple. After weeks of perilous travel deciphering the cryptic map, evading bandits in the shadowed forests, and crossing the treacherous ravines of the eastern mountains, they had finally arrived. The temple's entrance gaped before them like the maw of some slumbering giant, its stone facade weathered by centuries of neglect. Vines snaked their way up the walls, clinging to the cracked surface, and the air carried the heavy scent of damp earth and decay. The group exchanged nervous glances, their hearts pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and dread. This was the moment they had risked everything for, and now the real challenge awaited them within those shadowed depths. Leading the charge was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a renowned archaeologist whose relentless obsession with the lost civilization of the Sarathi had driven this expedition. Her dark eyes sparkled with determination, her mind already racing with theories about what lay ahead. Beside her stood Marcus Kane, a rugged protector, with a machete strapped to his hip and a past shrouded in mystery. His jaw was set, his sharp gaze scanning the surroundings for any hint of danger. Li Wei, the soft-spoken linguist, clutched his worn journal, his fingers itching to document every discovery, while Sophie Duran, the team's resourceful engineer, fidgeted with her gear, her nervous energy palpable as she adjusted the straps of her pack. Together, they were a mismatched yet formidable crew, bound by a shared quest for the truth. Stepping into the temple, the air shifted, thick with dust and the faint, musky scent of ancient secrets. Their boots crunched against the stone floor, the sound reverberating through the cavernous space. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, a tapestry of a civilization lost to time. The scenes depicted daily life farmers harvesting golden crops, artisans shaping clay into delicate vessels, children chasing one another through sunlit streets. But there were darker images, two priests offering sacrifices beneath a coiled serpent, warriors clashing in brutal combat, their faces frozen in eternal struggle. As the group ventured deeper, their flashlights cast flickering beams across the stone, creating shadows that danced like specters, as if the temple itself were alive, watching their every move. The deeper they pressed, the more the atmosphere thickened, the air growing cooler and heavier with each step. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow high above. A soft, ethereal light bathed the room, its source a mystery, seemingly emanating from the very walls themselves. At the chamber's heart stood a pedestal, unadorned, yet commanding, and upon it rested a glowing artifact, the serpent scepter. Its shaft was intricately carved with symbols that pulsed faintly, a rhythm like a heartbeat, and its head-coiled serpent with emerald eyes seemed almost alive, its gaze piercing the dimness. The sight stole their breath, a tangible piece of legend now within reach. Dr. Vasquez approached the pedestal, her hands trembling with reverence. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the scepter's glow. The serpent scepter. The key to the Serethis power more magnificent than I ever dreamed, Marcus lingered at her side, his hand resting on his machete's hilt, ever the sentinel. "Let's not get carried away," he cautioned, his tone gruff. "We don't know what else might be waiting in here." Lee flipped open his journal, his brow furrowing as he traced the symbols with his finger. "The texts say it grants immense power to its wielder," he murmured, "but it's bound by a responsibility we don't yet understand." Sophie, meanwhile, scanned the chambers, edges her engineer's mind, alert for traps. "Temples like this don't give up their treasures easily," she said. "We need to be ready for anything." Their moment of awe shattered as a low growl rumbled through the chamber, a sound that vibrated in their bones. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any they had encountered, a guardian forged of nightmare and myth. Its form melded the sleek, sinuous grace of a serpent with the raw strength of a lion, its scales glinting like polished obsidian in the faint light. Its eyes burned with an otherworldly glow, twin beacons of ancient power, and its presence filled the room with an oppressive weight. The group froze, the reality of their situation sinking in. Retrieving the scepter would not be a simple matter of claiming it. Marcus reacted first, drawing his machete with a metallic rasp, his stance shifting to shield the others. But Dr. Vasquez raised a hand, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Wait," she said. "Let's see if we can reason with it." The creature's gaze locked onto the scepter, its tail twitching with coiled menace. Then, impossibly, it spoke its voice, a deep resonance that seemed to echo from the stone itself. "You are not the first to seek the power of the ancients, but you may be the last." The words hung in the air, heavy with portent. Dr. Vasquez took a tentative step forward, her hands raised in peace. "We mean no harm," she said, meeting the creature's gaze. "We seek only to understand the knowledge of your people to preserve it." Lee stepped beside her, his journal clutched like a talisman. "We're different," he insisted. "We're scholars, explorers, not conquerors." The creature's eyes narrowed, its expression inscrutable. "Many have come before you. Driven by greed and ambition," it rumbled. "They sought the scepter for themselves, and they paid the price." Sophie, ever practical, cut in. "What can we do to prove our intentions?" she asked, her voice edged with urgency. The creature paused, its glowing eyes flickering as if weighing their souls. "There is a test," it said at last, "a trial to determine your worthiness." Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, his muscles taut. "What kind of test?" he demanded. The creature's lips curled into something that might have been a smile or a snarl. "A test of character," it replied. "Courage, wisdom, compassion. Pass, and the scepter is yours. Fail, and you join the others who came before." The group exchanged glances, their resolve hardening like steel in a forge. They had faced too much loss, too much to turn back now. "We accept," Dr. Vasquez declared, her voice ringing with conviction. The creature inclined its head, its form beginning to dissolve into the shadows from whence it came. "Then prepare yourselves," it intoned. "The trial begins now." As the guardian vanished, the chamber trembled, a low rumble shaking the floor beneath their feet. The walls shifted, stone grinding against stone, rearranging themselves with an eerie precision. The pedestal sank into the ground, taking the serpent scepter with it, and in its place rose a series of doors, 5 in a leech, marked with a distinct symbol: a flame, a wave, a coiled serpent, a crescent moon, and a broken chain. The ethereal light dimmed, casting the room in an ominous twilight, and a silence fell thick and expectant. The team stood at the chamber's center, their breaths shallow, their minds racing. Each door promised answers, but also periltrials, that would push them to their limits and beyond. Dr. Vasquez traced the serpent symbol with her eyes, her heart pounding with the weight of their choice. Marcus shifted his stance, ready for whatever lay ahead, while Lee scribbled furiously in his journal, as if the act of writing could anchor him. Sophie adjusted her pack, her fingers steadying as purpose overtook her fear. They knew one thing for certain: whatever lay beyond those doors would test them in ways they could not yet fathom. The scepter's power hung in the balance, a prize that could reshape their understanding of the world or destroy them. As they stepped toward the doors, a single question burned in their minds: which path would lead them to victory and which to ruin? In the previous section, we explored the early days of the Industrial Revolution, focusing on the innovations and technologies that transformed industries and societies. Now, let's dive deeper into the impact of these changes on the people who lived through them and how those effects still resonate today. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just a historical event. It was a tidal wave of change that reshaped human life. From bustling cities to groundbreaking inventions, from economic upheaval to social transformation, this era laid the foundation for the world we know. But it wasn't all progress. There were shadows cast by this bright new dawn, and we'll uncover both sides of the story. A new urban world. The Industrial Revolution marked a turning point in human history. It was a time of unprecedented change as new technologies and innovations transformed the way people lived and worked. From the steam engine to the cotton gin, these inventions revolutionized industries and paved the way for modern society. But what sparked this seismic shift? Was it the brilliance of inventors, the drive of entrepreneurs, or the needs of a growing population? Perhaps it was all these forces colliding, igniting a revolution that would redefine the globe. One of the most striking changes was the rapid growth of cities. As factories multiplied, offering jobs and a promise of opportunity, people poured in from rural areas. Cities like Manchester and London swelled their skylines, soon dominated by smokestacks. This urbanization was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it fueled economic growth and cultural exchange. On the other, it brought overcrowding, with families squeezed into cramped, filthy tenements. Disease thrived in these conditions. Cholera and typhoid became grim realities. The air grew thick with coal smoke, and rivers turned black with industrial waste. Yet despite these hardships, the cities pulsed with life, drawing dreamers and workers alike. But the Industrial Revolution wasn't just about where people lived, it was about how they worked and what they built. The social shifts were only part of the story. Let's turn our attention to the machines and minds that powered this era, the technological leaps that changed everything. The engines of change. The steam engine, perfected by James Watt in 1769, was the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution. It drove factories, powered trains, and propelled steamships, shrinking the world in ways unimaginable before. Then there was the cotton gin, Eli Whitney's 1793 invention, which turned cotton into a cash crop by speeding up production. And let's not forget the telegraph, Samuel Morse's 1837 marvel, which sent messages racing across continents, a whisper of the digital age to come. These weren't just tools, they were catalysts, sparking industries and connecting people like never before. Coal and iron fueled this technological boom. Coal kept the steam engines humming, while iron forged the machinery and railways that stitched nations together. New mining techniques dug deeper, pulling these resources from the earth at a staggering pace. The Bessemer process, introduced in the 1850s, turned iron into steel stronger, cheaper, and perfect for bridges and buildings. The spinning jenny and power loom, meanwhile, transformed textiles, churning out cloth faster than any hand could weave. Each invention built on the last, a chain reaction of progress that reshaped the world. These technologies didn't just change production, they rewrote the rules of the economy. The machines were the muscle, but the markets they fed were the lifeblood. Let's explore how this industrial surge rippled through trade commerce and the very structure of society. Economic transformation. The Industrial Revolution ushered in a seismic shift from agriculture to industry. The enclosure movement pushed farmers off common lands, sending them to factories and mines. There, they joined a growing workforce, powering a new economic beast, capitalism. Entrepreneurs poured money into machines and labor chasing profits in a competitive frenzy. Trade boomed as canals and railroads linked cities and coasts, moving goods faster and farther. The railway mania of the 1840s turned travel and transport into an economic engine, opening markets and fueling growth. Yet this prosperity came with volatility. Boom and bust cycles rocked the economy, leaving workers jobless when factories faltered. The rise of the middle class was a bright spot. Managers, clerks, and professionals emerged enjoying new wealth and status. Consumerism took root with shops brimming with goods once reserved for the elite. But the wealth wasn't shared evenly. Factory owners grew rich, while workers scraped by a divide that sparked tensions and cries for change. This economic upheaval had its costs, though costs paid in human lives and scarred landscapes. The glittering progress of the Industrial Revolution hid a darker reality, one we can't ignore as we piece together its full legacy. The price of progress. The rapid rise of industry exploited more than just resources, it exploited people. Workers, including women and children, faced grueling hours in perilous conditions. Factories lacked safety rules, and accidents were common, limbs lost to machines' lungs ruined by dust. Children crawled through narrow mine shafts or tended dangerous looms, their youth traded for pennies. The environment suffered too. Factories belched smoke, rivers ran with filth, and forests fell to feed the insatiable demand for coal. This was the shadow of progress, a toll that weighed heavily on the era. Yet even in these struggles, there were seeds of change. The hardships fueled movements for reform labor laws, cleaner cities, a better future. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about what it took. It was about what it left behind, for better and worse. Looking ahead, as we've seen, the Industrial Revolution was a whirlwind of triumph and tragedy. It built the modern world on a foundation of innovation, ambition, and sacrifice. Cities rose, technologies soared, economies transformed, but at a cost in human and environmental terms. So where does this leave us? What if I told you this was just the opening act? That the machines and ideas of this era were only the first sparks of a fire still burning today? In the next section, we'll trace the Industrial Revolution's legacy into the modern age. How did its triumphs and failures shape the 20th century and beyond? What challenges and marvels awaited as the world built on this chaotic, brilliant beginning? Stay with us to find out. The air grew colder as you descended the ancient stone steps, each one slick with moisture and time. The faint glow of your torch barely pierced the oppressive darkness, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The temple above had been a marvel of craftsmanship, but here in the depths, the stonework felt raw, as if carved by hands desperate to hide something or protect it. The weight of the earth pressed down on you, a constant reminder of how far you were from the safety of the surface. Every breath felt heavier, the damp air clinging to your lungs like a shroud. Dr. Elena Vasquez led the way, her flashlight sweeping across the uneven floor. Her face was set in determination, but you could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. This was uncharted territory, even for her. Behind her, Marcus gripped his machete, his knuckles white. Lee scribbled notes in his journal, though his hand trembled slightly. Sophie, usually the steady one, trailed at the rear, her eyes darting to every shadow. The victory of retrieving the serpent scepter felt distant now, overshadowed by the growing sense that the temple had more to reveal and more to take. Suddenly, the ground beneath your feet shifted, and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. You realized too late that you had triggered a trap. The walls began to close in their stone surfaces, grinding with a sound like bones breaking. Panic surged through the group. Marcus lunged forward, jamming his machete into the narrowing gap, but it was like trying to stop a mountain with a twig. The walls inched closer, relentless. "Quick!" Sophie shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She dropped to her knees, examining the floor. "There's a mechanism here. If I can just—" Her fingers flew over the stone tiles, searching for a release. You held your breath, the walls now close enough to brush your shoulders. Then with a click, the grinding stopped. The walls shuddered and retracted, leaving you gasping in the widened space. Sophie stood, wiping sweat from her brow. "That was too close," she muttered. You nodded, your heart still pounding. But as the dust settled, a faint inscription caught your eye on the wall, ahead a riddle, perhaps the next test in this unforgiving descent. What secrets did it guard? And could you unravel them before the temple claimed you? Lee stepped forward, his eyes lighting up despite the danger. "This is ancient script," he said, tracing the symbols with his finger. "It's a warning, or perhaps a guide." He read aloud, his voice echoing softly. "To pass beyond, one must speak the name of the guardian who sleeps in shadow." The group exchanged glances. The guardian. You recalled the serpent-lion creature from earlier, but it had vanished after the trial. Was there another Sophie, who had always been the quiet one, stepped forward? "I think I can decipher this," she said, her voice steady despite the lingering fear. You watched in awe as she pieced together the ancient language, her fingers tracing the faded symbols. "It's not just a name," she continued. "It's a title. The guardian is called the Watcher of the Void." She paused, her brow furrowing. "But there's more. It says the name must be spoken with respect, or the path will close forever." You swallowed hard. The wrong word could seal your fate. Dr. Vasquez nodded her trust in Sophie, unspoken but clear. "Then we proceed with caution," she said. Sophie took a deep breath and spoke the name, "Watcher of the Void, we honor your vigil." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groan, the wall before you slid open, revealing a passage shrouded in darkness. A path deeper into the unknown, beckoning you forward. The path ahead was narrower, the air even colder. The cold seeped into your bones, making your muscles ache with every step. You could hear the distant drip of water, each drop amplifying the silence that surrounded you. The walls here were different, smoother, almost polished, as if worn by something that had passed through countless times. You shuddered at the thought. What kind of creature could leave such marks? As you ventured deeper, the passage opened into a vast cavern. Stalactites hung like jagged teeth from the ceiling, and the floor was uneven, slick with moisture. In the center of the cavern, a chasm yawned wide, its depths lost in shadow. A narrow bridge of stone arched over it, the only way forward. You tested the bridge with your foot. It held, but the stone was crumbling in places. One wrong step could send you plummeting into the abyss. Marcus went first, his movements careful and deliberate. You followed your heart in your throat. Halfway across, a gust of wind swept through the cavern and the bridge swayed. You gripped the edges, your knuckles white. Keep moving. Marcus urged, his voice tight. You nodded, forcing yourself to take one step at a time until finally you reached the other side. But safety was fleeting, what waited in the shadows beyond. The cavern held more than just a chasm. As you caught your breath, you noticed strange markings on the wall's runes that glowed faintly in the dark. Lee approached, his curiosity piqued. These are protective sigils, he said, his voice hushed, meant to ward off something or keep it contained. A chill ran down your spine. What could be so dangerous that even the ancients feared it? Before you could ponder further, a sound echoed through the caverna, low guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The temperature dropped sharply, and your breath misted in the air. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any you had ever seen. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its growl reverberated through the cavern. The beast was massive, its form shifting as if made of smoke and shadow. You knew that to proceed, you would have to confront this beast. Marcus drew his machete, but Dr. Vasquez held up a hand. Wait, she said, her voice calm but firm. This might be another test. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on the creature. We mean no harm, she called out. We seek only to pass. The beast paused, its glowing eyes narrowing. For a moment, you thought it might understand. Then with a roar, it lunged, forcing you to face the terror head on. You scattered, dodging the creature's swipes. Marcus slashed at it, but his blade passed through, as if cutting through mist. The beast seemed invulnerable, its form reforming with each attack. Sophie, thinking quickly, grabbed a torch and thrust it toward the creature. The flames seemed to repel it, and it recoiled with a hiss. Fire, she shouted. It fears fire. You seized another torch, and together you drove the beast back its form, flickering in the light. But just as it seemed, you had the upper hand. The creature let out a deafening roar, and the cavern shook. Rocks tumbled from the ceiling, and the bridge behind you cracked ominously. You had to act fast. With your weapons drawn and your hearts racing, you prepared for the fight of your lives. But just as the creature lunged again, a hidden door creaked open behind you, revealing a path shrouded in mystery. You had a choice to make: face the beast or take the unknown route. What lay beyond that door? And would it be your salvation or your doom? The sun had long vanished below the horizon, its last rays swallowed by the ancient ruins that cradled the temple in their stony embrace. Our heroes, Lena, Marcus, Lee, and Sophie, stood at the edge of a decision that could rewrite their destinies. The temple's silhouette towered over them, a monolith of mystery, whispering promises and threats in equal measure. They had ventured too far to retreat, their journey marked by sacrifice and discovery, yet the path ahead shimmered with danger. Elena's fingers brushed the artifact in her pocket, its faint warmth a silent reassurance as they crossed the threshold into the unknown. As they plunged deeper into the temple's labyrinthine depths, the air thickened with an almost tangible weight. Their torches cast flickering shadows across walls adorned with intricate carvings, scenes of a lost civilization's rise and ruin etched in stone with haunting precision. Warriors clashed, kings fell, and serpents coiled around scepters, their eyes glinting in the torchlight as if alive. Elena's mind churned with questions. What had driven this ancient people to such grandeur, and what had brought their downfall? The answers seemed to pulse within the temple's very walls, a heartbeat of secrets waiting to be unearthed. Suddenly, a whisper slithered through the darkness, soft and insidious. "Turn back," it hissed, "or face the consequences." The group froze their breaths, catching as the sound coiled around them like a living thing. Before they could react, the ground shuddered violently, and the walls began to close in with a groan of ancient stone. "It's a trap!" Elena cried, her voice cutting through the rising panic. "Run!" They bolted forward, dodging jagged chunks of debris that crashed around them, the temple awakening to defend its mysteries with ruthless intent. The narrow passage twisted and turned a serpentine gauntlet that tested their every step. Dust choked the air, and the rumble of shifting stone echoed like a beast's growl. Just as their lungs burned and hope flickered, the corridor spilled them into a vast chamber. The ceiling stretched into shadow, and the walls bore more carving tales of betrayal, sacrifice, and a serpent crowned with power. At the chamber's heart stood a pedestal, cradling a small stone artifact, its surface alive with glowing symbols that pulsed in rhythm with Elena's racing heart. She approached, her hand trembling as she grasped the artifact. The moment her skin met its surface, a blinding light erupted, searing through the chamber. When it faded, they stood in a new space, a room, humming with energy, its walls alive with shifting patterns. But they were not alone. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and cloaked, its eyes burning with an otherworldly glow. "You have passed the first test," it intoned, its voice a deep resonance that vibrated in their bones. "But the true challenge awaits." The air crackled with portent, and Elena felt the artifact's power surge, a silent promise of trials yet to come. The figure's presence lingered like a storm on the horizon as it raised a hand, summoning a transformation in the chamber. The walls shimmered, revealing 4 doorways each, marked with a distinct symbol: a flame, a wave, a coiled serpent, and a broken chain. "Choose your path," the figure commanded, "but choose wisely. Only one leads to the temple's heart." The heroes exchanged wary glances, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. Each symbol whispered its own story: fire for passion, water for secrets, the serpent for cunning, the chain for freedom or bondage. Marcus broke the silence, his voice steady. "The serpent's been our guide so far." Lee frowned, tracing the wave with his finger. Water could mean wisdom, a deeper truth. Sophie, ever pragmatic, lingered by the broken chain. "This one feels like a warning or a release." Elena closed her eyes, letting the artifact's warmth guide her. A faint voice brushed her mind. "The serpent's path is perilous, but it seeks the brave." She opened her eyes and pointed to the serpent's door. "This one." The figure nodded, and the portal creaked open, mist curling from its depths like tendrils of fate. The passage beyond was a cold, damp tunnel, its walls glistening with moisture. The mist thickened as they advanced, muffling their footsteps and carrying eerie sounds, whispers, distant cries, the scrape of scales on stone. The air grew frigid, and the heroes moved with caution, senses sharpened by the unknown. The tunnel widened into a circular chamber, its floor etched with a sprawling labyrinth. At its center stood another pedestal, this one bearing a glowing orb that pulsed like a living star. The whispers crescendoed as they neared a chorus of ancient voices speaking in tongues lost to time. Elena felt the orbs pull, an irresistible call, but Marcus gripped her arm. "It's another test," he warned, his eyes scanning the room. Lee knelt by the pedestal, deciphering the labyrinth symbols. "It's a lock," he said. "We need to align them." Sophie joined him, her nimble fingers tracing the pattern. Together, they shifted the symbols until they clicked into place and the orb flared brighter. Elena lifted it, and the chamber quaked the floor, splitting to reveal a yawning chasm below. "Move!" Marcus roared, and they fled as the ground crumbled beneath them. The passage collapsed in their wake, stones raining down like judgment. They burst into a new chamber, this one bathed in a serene golden light. A woman stood at its center, her presence gentle, yet commanding her eyes, holding a wisdom that spanned ages. "You have done well," she said, her voice a soothing melody. "But the temple's final secret remains. It will test not just your strength, but your heart's." She gestured to a door behind her, its surface rippling with ethereal light. "Beyond lies the truth you seek. Enter, but beware not all emerge as they were." The heroes paused, catching their breath, their journey's toll etched in their faces. They had faced traps and riddles, guardians and shadows, yet this felt different, a threshold to something profound. Elena met her companions, gazes finding strength in their shared resolve. Together, they stepped toward the door, ready for the ultimate trial. The chamber held its breath as the door swung open, revealing a blinding radiance that swallowed the shadows. A chill swept through them, and the woman's voice echoed in their minds. "The greatest test is of the heart, not the hand." They crossed the threshold, the light enveloping them like a tide, and the world they knew dissolved. What lay beyond was a mysteria truth that could forge or break them, a secret guarded by the temple's ancient soul. The serpent's path had led them here through danger and doubt to the edge of revelation. But as the light consumed them, one question lingered sharp and insistent. Were they truly prepared for what awaited? The answer hung in the air, a tantalizing thread pulling them and their listeners irresistibly toward the next chapter. The blinding light faded, revealing a chamber that seemed to pulse with life. The air buzzed with an ancient energy, and the walls glowed with runes that flickered in sync with the explorers' racing pulses. At the rooms, heart stood an altar, its surface carved with the coiled serpent symbol that had haunted their journey. Above it floated a crystal orb, its golden light washing the chamber in an otherworldly glow. This was it, the temple's core, the prize they'd bled for, and the final trial they'd face. Elena took a hesitant step forward, her eyes locked on the orb. It was breathtaking, hypnotic, yet she felt its presence probing her thoughts as if testing her resolve. Marcus gripped his machete tighter, his gaze sweeping the shadows for danger. Lee stood rooted, his journal slipping from his fingers, while Sophie traced the runes with her eyes, already piecing together their secrets. The silence shattered as the woman's voice rang in their minds. "The greatest test is of the heart, not the hand." Elena's hand brushed the artifact in her pocket, her throat tightening. They'd solved riddles, fought monsters, but this was no physical challenge. It was a reckoning. The orb flared, and the runes twisted into words from a forgotten tongue. Lee jolted awake, scrambling to the wall. "It's a riddle," he said, voice shaking. "It asks, what is the true power of the serpent?" The question hung heavy. They'd unraveled the serpent's meanings, wisdom, renewal, cunning. But which was its essence? Elena sifted through their trials. The guardian's strength, the whispers, guidance, the balance of survival. Balance, she declared, her voice cutting through the tension. The serpent's power is balance, life and death, chaos and order, strength and restraint. The orb pulsed, the runes glowed, and the air steadied. They'd passed the first hurdle, but the temple wasn't done with them yet. A low rumble shook the floor, and 4 pedestals rose from the shadows, each cradling an object, a jeweled crown, a gleaming sword, a weathered scroll, and a plain stone. The voice returned, "Choose the one that embodies the serpent's power." Sophie frowned, circling the crown. "Authority," she mused. "Too simple." Marcus lingered by the sword drawn to its edge. "Strength," he grunted, but not enough. Lee hovered over the scroll, whispering wisdom, yet it's incomplete. Elena knelt by the stone, its dull surface hiding a quiet resilience. She lifted it, feeling its enduring weight. "This," she said. "The stone is balance humble, steady, unyielding through time." The orb blazed, and the pedestals vanished. The voice softened. "Well chosen, but one test remains." The altar cracked open, revealing a dark staircase. "Descend and face the serpent's heart." The descent was suffocating, each step plunging them deeper into shadow. Their torches cast weak flickers against the damp stone, and the air grew thick with cold. At the bottom, a circular chamber awaited, dominated by a serpent statue with emerald eyes that gleamed like stars. As they neared the stone, shuddered, splitting and reforming into a living beast. Its scales shimmered, its gaze pierced. "You seek my power?" it hissed, coiling around them, blocking escape. "Prove your worth." What is the greatest sacrifice a leader must make? Elena froze the question, slicing into her. She'd led them here, borne every burden. "A leader sacrifices their own wants," she said, voice trembling but sure. "They give up self for others." The serpent studied her, then uncoiled, revealing a door. "Truth," it rumbled. "Enter and take what you've earned." Beyond the door lay a chamber, awash in gold, the serpent scepter at its core, its shaft radiant, its emerald eyes alive. Elena reached for it, but a vision struck, flames engulfing cities, screams echoing power, twisting into ruin. She staggered back. "What is this?" she demanded. The serpent's voice faded. "In power demands a price. Wield it and choose its path." Her hand hovered, doubt clawing at her. The vision lingered, destruction or salvation. She glanced at her team, their trust anchoring her. With a steadying breath, she seized the scepter, its energy surging through her veins. The temple quaked. The serpent bowed. "Build or break it," whispered, vanishing into silence. They emerged into dawn, the scepter humming in Elena's grasp. The world felt fragile, teetering on their choices. They'd won the prize, but its weight pressed harder than ever. As sunlight bathed the jungle, a question burned. What would they forge with this power, and what might it cost?